Hey everybody, Mike B here with a brand new series. With the success of my Vietnam War series of doing little videos about weird little details of the conflict, I decided to start one on the First World War. So this first video I'm going to be talking about US stuff, but just be patient with me. I guarantee we'll get to foreign stuff in the future, and I'll maybe get some different uniforms to kind of give you a visual aid and talk about things. And we'll be talking about different things. They're going to be shorter videos, kind of like the Vietnam one. Some of them will be 5 minutes, some of them will be 20 minutes. Just depends on what we're covering. So today I'm going to be covering a US topic, and we're going to talk about headgear. So a lot of people that aren't really familiar with World War I are very familiar with this hat because it's kind of still around. Now, in 1911, the Montana Peak campaign hat, is what they were called, was adopted for the Army, and then the Marines in 1912 did it's a very similar pattern, except the rim is folded under and stuff, and I don't have an example of one of those. So I made a video on one a couple years ago, but this is going to be like a formal kind of history of the headgear of the US, or American Expeditionary Force, AEF, from here on out, so I don't have to say American Expeditionary Force, from 1911 until 1919, basically. And this is going to be field headgear and in garrison headgear. And I'm going to explain kind of what happened when they actually went over to France. So, as I said, Spanish-American War, they had I forgot what it's called, the Stetson, where it's got the bowl on the top, and they realized that when it rains, it gets really heavy and wet and disgusting. So they came out with the Montana Peak, which is just pinched 4 times, and the Canadians actually had their own version that was rotated 45 degrees, so it was just off-center a little bit from ours. That's how you can tell a Canadian hat away from a U.S. hat. So anyway, these were in service from 1911 all the way through the 1940s. Some units had them. So what happened was, when we got involved in 1917, we had no helmet, no official headgear other than this. This was what soldiers wore wherever they were deployed to, whether it be domestic or foreign. You were going to be wearing the campaign hat. And there were a couple variations of the campaign hat, but I'll do a separate video on that. This one is the model of 1913, which I actually have available in my store, reproductions. They're 100% made in the USA. They're about as close to the originals as you're going to get, and nobody else comes close because the Montana Peak, you can see it's really high on this one. The modern drill sergeant hats are a lot lower, and they're more kind of square and blocky. So these are the only place, or this is the only place that you're going to be able to get an authentic repro like this. Now, some people private purchase these leather chin straps, which I like, but they were issued mainly with just basically a shoestring chin strap that most guys either just cut off or tucked behind them, like I'm wearing this. But this is a leather chin strap. Sears catalog was around in 1917 and before that, so people could order things and they had everything. So we get over to France, all right? We get involved in 1917, we get over to France, and yes, most of the people that were deployed first to France, like the 1st Division, the Marines, a lot of the early engineer units, stuff like that, a lot of the early National Guard units, we're going to be wearing the campaign hat over there. So when they got over to France, the French and British soldiers were like, those are not going to be very good in the trenches. They're big. You have nowhere to store them, so you might as well just get rid of them. And then the Americans said, no, we'll try them out. And they did for a very short time. There are a couple pictures of, I think, 1st Division troops or Marines in a trench actually in combat. And the soldiers are wearing these and the canvas 1910 leggings, which I'll do another video on later. So they're actually wearing these in combat. It did not happen that often. After that, they realized, yep, they're big. They don't go well with modern warfare. So we need to figure out something else. So what they did is they ended up just probably ditching these in their troop train where all their excess gear was held throughout the entire war, like their A-bag that they had. They'd throw this in there with a bunch of other stuff that they didn't need, and that's why you don't see a lot of pictures of these being worn over in France. There are a couple, like I said, but it was not commonplace at all. By about late 1917, you're not going to see these even being worn in garrison really that much at all in France. They were actually replaced with the French style, but they patterned this off of / the Glengarry. This is the first pattern overseas cap that the Americans adopted. Now, you can see it's just a straight line. It's very symmetrical. It's not lined with anything, all right? Now, off of this came basically every imaginable style you could think of. Mainly, they use the British style, which I actually don't have right now. I have an original one. I should have actually gotten it out for this video, but it's packed away still, a bunch of stuff. But I'm just saying, like, the general overall style was going to be the overseas cap, or it was patterned after the French bonnet de police, I think is what they called it, like the police hat. So these were then called the overseas cap because they could be easily worn in garrison. They didn't take up any space. You could easily fit it in your pocket for when you go outdoors and stuff. It's not big and bulky like a campaign hat. And yeah, that's what they wore in garrison behind the lines. You really don't see pictures of guys wearing these in combat because they were issued first the British 1916 Brodie helmet. I made a video on how to distinguish the two styles, but then 1917 we started producing these, so you'd see earlier American soldiers wearing British helmets, later ones wearing the American helmets. There's really no way to tell unless you know, from a picture, unless you can see the rivets versus the split pins. So anyway, that's why we wore these. And these were worn out in the field almost entirely. When you're out in the field, you're wearing your helmet because it was reducing head injuries greatly. I mean, it's better than this, okay? This will not stop a rock coming at you at, 100 or 1,000 feet per second. This is pretty worthless. It's just a decoration because everybody in the military's got to wear headgear at all times when they're outside. So this is what you're going to see being worn in the trenches, in the woods, in the forests, in the fields. This is what you're going to see being worn by U.S. troops because we followed suit and realized that, yeah, warfare has changed quite a damn bit and everybody else is wearing them and they're seeing results, so we're going to start doing that too. So that's what they wore. And, I mean, you've seen pictures, so you know that the Americans were wearing Brodie helmets, or actually the M1917 is not technically a Brodie helmet, but yeah, this is what, a lot of the guys, even post-armistice, because they weren't going to be wearing helmets around because they're hotter than this. And I know this is wool, but those helmets don't allow heat to escape very well, and the liners are kind of nasty. The original ones were made of oilcloth that got on your scalp and stuff. But this is what you're going to see guys wearing a variation of this hat. Even when they got home, it was kind of a sign that, they had actually been overseas, because people at home were still wearing, their garrison visor caps or their campaign hats. So it was kind of a symbol of, the puttees, and the hat was a sign that you had been there minus all the insignia on your uniform. So that's why you see these hats a lot in photos of U.S. soldiers in World War I. And Marines actually adopted a variation of this too, and they wore all different variants. Marines wore Army uniforms later on, so they're going to be just wearing what I'm wearing. But anyway, yeah, I hope you learned something about the evolution of the headgear for the U.S. forces in World War I. This is just for like field wear. This wasn't really covering like the visor caps or whatever. This is just stuff that they'd wear out in the field and just rear of the, when they weren't in combat, but they were still technically on the front or maybe in the rear, but a couple hundred yards back, they'd be wearing this. Yeah, that's all I've got for this video. Sorry it took so long to get it, but I just had to explain a few details of why things were the way they were. Again, I've got the campaign hats in my shop. They're made to order. They take a few weeks, but they are worth every penny and worth the wait. They are, again, as close as you can get, 100% made in the USA, and a fine example of that, and they come in a pretty much any size you need. So thanks a lot for watching, everybody. Let me know if you learned something from this, or if you got any questions on headgear for the American Expeditionary Force, AEF. And I'm looking forward to getting this series really going. Consider supporting me on Patreon to keep the channel funded. It'll allow me to get some more cool visual aids, gear, equipment, uniforms, that I can help teach you guys little tiny things about the First World War that you might not have thought about. And then busting some myths and stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. Check out the links in the description for the campaign hats and being supporting my channel and my work. And we'll see you in the next video.